men and a woman enter the room armed with garlic and steaks, only to be surprised to find vampire Abigail dancing with the headless corpse of their companion. None of the three dare to rush forward first. Immersed in the dance, Abigail finds the three accidental intruders, throws down the bodies in her hands and begs for mercy. With a bag of garlic in his left hand and a sharp stick in his right hand, Sammy rushes up first, but is knocked to the ground by Abigail. After grabbing the garlic in her hands, she took a deep breath and hit Sammy with the garlic. Frank stepped in to help and was kicked over. Pepper was also climbed on top of Abigail. Frank tried to sneak up from behind, but he was stripped of the stick and stabbed in the brain. Three people see garlic, sticks, crosses are ineffective, can only be embarrassed to escape from the room. Abigail gives a meaningful smile instead of chasing her. Joey, the team's doctor, bandages their wounds and thinks he might try the sedative he gave Abigail earlier. He had checked Abigail's pulse and was breathing slowly, but needed to control her movements before injecting. When they returned upstairs, Abigail was nowhere to be found. Four people begin to separate action. Looking for Abigail, Sammy found a very secret underground swimming pool, but surrounded by dense rotting bodies. No accident. This is all Abigail's handwriting. If not for the desire to survive, this taste can be burned out on the spot. At that moment, Pepper has no idea Abigail has approached him. I thought I could lock the door and block it like before, and the next thing I know, I get punched in the face. In a desperate moment, Frank opens the door and knocks Pepper down the stairs. Abigail turns her eyes to Frank. The boy drags his crippled leg down the stairs to play with him. Abigail pushes him down. Then she retaliated for the injustice she had suffered before. Joy looked at the opportunity to plunge into the sedative, but was slapped by Abigail and flew out. Frank was about to die, and Sammy, who could not look for tools, hugged him, which was when he was bitten by a vampire. Just as Abigail is having fun and trying to take off in place with Frank, Pepper pounces with a bodice dog, not to mention a bit of strength, and it's at this moment that Joey gets the sedative. After a while, Abigail falls asleep peacefully, giving the four a chance to catch their breath as they lock Abigail in the cage. When Abigail wakes up and finds herself locked in the iron cage, she seems to be a helpless girl again and begs Joy to let her go. Joey doesn't know that he's been played. Frank said it was all a misunderstanding. They didn't know Abigail's identity before. If they had known who Abigail's father was, they would never have laid a finger on her. But Abigail blurts out that Frank used to work for her father and asks the crowd to wonder why she brought them all here. It turns out there is no ransom of 50 million. It was all planned. Lambert worked for him. Abigail then reveals the real names and identities of several people who are involved in her father's business. Frank was one of the three men who had betrayed his father. He had changed his name in the killing to escape, and since then he has been incognito and has not contacted his family. They were like the corpses in the underground pool, toys for their own leisure time. Joy wondered, and she was in a cage, saying such big things. Abigail looks at her companion next to her and offers to let anyone who frees her live. The simple-minded, well-limbed Pepper immediately backtracked and tried to open the door. Abigail convinces him with words, and Joey shoots him just before he hits the door lock. When the two women take Pepper to bandage up, Abigail starts to talk to Frank again. As the team's brains, Frank certainly won't be fooled. When Frank arrives at the door, Abigail bursts into laughter and opens the door with a look of horror in her eyes. It turned out that all the weakness before was her disguise. Enjoy the pleasure of playing with prey. See, Franz K is about to be torn to pieces by her. Joy came and smashed open the window on the side with an axe. Abigail's arm explodes and screams. When the sun hits her, she hides to one side, but her recovery ability is amazing. Two people quickly fled here. They hid in the second floor of the Sun in the study in order to escape. Four people decided to divide into two teams to find the power switch distribution. The next second, Sammy's arm began to heal. The head began to feel an inexplicable power. Silly Pepper is still in front of the road, but look back to find Sammy's strange disappearance. But as he and Pepper search for power, they suddenly lose control of their bodies and bite Pepper in the neck. It turns out that after being bitten by Abigail, he has become their puppet. After a controlled Sammy bites Pepper to death, he and Abigail have a quick death.
Run!
Knowing that sunlight is the weakness of vampires, they hide together in the study where the sun shines. Soon, the two hid together in the study, waiting for her to pounces. Joey held up a bronze mirror, shining sunlight on Sammy's body, directly causing him to turn into a ball of blood. They find a room with a control unit in the basement, open the door, and to their surprise, Lambert turns out to be a vampire. He pins Joey against the wall and tells her why he did it. It turns out that Lambert wants to kill Abigail and her father, hoping to take over all his property, and informs Abigail's father to come over. Here, under the dual temptation of power and money, Frank promised to let Lambert unscrupulously assimilate himself. Before long, Frank succeeded in joining the vampire race. Just as Lambert turns around to assimilate Joey, he is killed by the ambitious Frank. Just then Abigail walked in. While the two of them were entangled, Joey opened the door. In an instant, all the guards in the room were off, but the only access to the outside was blocked by a chain, blessed by the powerful magic. Frank begins to enjoy the happiness brought by the transformation into a vampire. She plays with Joey again and again. Abigail catches her at the critical moment. Joey doesn't know what's going on. So you only have one life. Is it because you are willing to assimilate? So you are powerful, one human, one vampire, and they work together. I feel that this setting is a bit ridiculous. Despite all Abigail's efforts, Frank wins the upper hand in just one encounter and is finally sucked by Frank. In the end, the two kill Frank together, and Joey first asks if he will soon become a vampire. Abigail tells him that if Frank dies, but just as Joey turns to leave, Abigail's father, the Superman behind the scenes, appears and wants to suck Joey dry. But after Abigail repeatedly stops him, he doesn't. In the end, only Joy survives. I feel that the final ending is inexplicable. Why is Frank such a strong fighting force, who sacrificed himself voluntarily? Abigail, who has lived for centuries, can't beat him. The suspense part of the movie is still very good.